Okay, well, here we go. My
All
name is
right.
William Stewart. Welcome to my podcast. I'm the MS ambassador for the MS Society. On my podcast, this is a safe place where people with a has MS can share their stories and give the opportunity to people that don't know about multiple sclerosis. This podcast is on all major platforms: Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. Today, I'm talking to Eve Clark. Eve Clark, what date were you diagnosed with multiple sclerosis?
Well, first, thank you for having me to your platform and to your podcast.
Thank you for being here.
And we're going to jump right in. So, I was diagnosed in 1996, around my 25th birthday.
On your around your birthday.
I was hospitalized 2 days after my birthday, and then I was there for a month. And then they were able to determine that MS was the catalyst of the
Really?
problems I was having.
For 2 months?
1 month. I was there
1 month.
for a month. I was there for 30 days. Actually, I was there for 3 weeks. I was like, I'm out of here. I left,
You left.
and I had to come right back the next day.
Wait, you
And then
made
I
the
was there for
decision to
another month.
leave?
I did. I was like, yeah, I don't know what's taking y'all so long. I'm out of here.
You said, I'm
And
out of here.
But when I said I'm out of here, I literally got to my brother's house, got to the back porch. Then I had to call my dad to say, "Come get me and take me back."
Really? What? So why'd you do that? You didn't feel
I could barely walk.
really?
So it was a bad
Yeah.
decision. I
Yeah.
was frustrated with them in the hospital on how long it was taking them to figure out what was wrong with me, but I definitely wasn't fixed,
Yeah.
right? So
So you had to start
I had
dead.
to turn around and go right back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe that was the best decision, right? Going back.
Yeah, I guess in hindsight it was the best decision. And if I hadn't have been at that particular hospital, I would have still went some years without them figuring out what was wrong with me. The
Yeah.
only reason they figured it out that time was because I happened to be, as an adult, I was at the hospital in which I had grown up around.
Okay.
So they were able to reach back and see all of my medical
On
records
your
and
records.
determine that this problem had been going on for about 10 years prior.
Wow.
So, and not just that, it explained lots of things that had been happening to me really since I was a child.
Wow.
And they were able to determine that. Now,
Hmm.
previously, I grew up in a town, let's say 30 miles south of Chicago. So, as an adult or a young adult, I actually moved into the city of Chicago. And I kept going to hospitals and doctors complaining about certain things. But as a young woman, they just explained certain things away,
Yeah.
right? Due to my lifestyle. And mainly, I was complaining of extreme fatigue and I was complaining about burning sensations in my legs, right?
And then what about clumsiness?
Yes, and so when I go back and I mentioned about things that had happened to me as a child, I broke my thumb on my right hand like 5 times. And what happened was I would jump out of the car to go to school and I would slam my hand in the door. So
Five
and it was like,
times?
yeah, multiple times it happened to me. And that's why to this day I can write with both my hands.
Yeah.
So when I was, let's say, 6, because I'm in first grade when this is happening. And, the first time it happens, they say, oh, somebody, carry her books and write her assignments. And the next time, carry her books and write her assignments. The third time, no, pick up that other hand. Because at 6, you're doing what? You're learning how to
Yeah.
write.
Yeah.
And so, because it happened in that manner at that age, I had to learn how to write with both my
Both
hands.
hands. So what
Yeah.
hand are you right-handed?
I'm right-handed, but I can write
Right-handed.
with my left hand. I can do a lot of stuff with my left
So
hand.
now you both.
Yeah,
So now
I can
you're
write with
both.
both of them. My
Mm.
handwriting, of course, is more legible with my
Yeah.
right hand,
Yeah.
but because of MS and the things that happen to my hands in general, both, no matter which hand I'm writing with, it looks the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. Did you play any sports when you were
Not really. Not that I was good at. So I tried to be, I was a cheerleader.
a
So
cheerleader? Okay.
I was a cheerleader all through grade school. And when I got to high school, I was on the cheerleading squad for a little bit freshman year. Tried to be on the track team, but again, my legs would burn right after exerting energy. So then it was, yeah, it was just a negative for me. Then I was in shop class learning how to build stuff.
Yeah. 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 Okay. 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 Let me ask you this, dude, because they say that MS is hereditary. Do you have siblings that has multiple sclerosis?
No, well, another fun fact is I'm adopted.
You're
So
adopted.
I'm
Okay.
adopted. I was adopted as a young girl. So
Okay.
I was with the family that adopted me since I was 6 months old. And then when I turned six, I was adopted formally by them. But when I moved to Texas, in fact, when I moved to Texas, I had finally given up hope that my birth family would ever find me, because my family was in the same house from the time they got me, basically all my life, phone number published, and my birth mother had rights to me as a foster child. So I had visitation with her. So I always in my mind figuring, oh, she gonna just come back. She just gonna pop back over here. And here's another thing you don't realize as a child. One of the things that happened when they adopted me was pretty much because I was going to school. And when you go to school, everybody's name needed. You don't know what a child's last name is as
Yeah.
another child, right?
Yeah.
But when I go to school, that's when everybody's going to know what my last
Hmm.
name is. So turns out my adoptive mother pitched a fit that my birth mother had to like do what you're going to do because we need to adopt her because she's going to school.
Yeah.
Also,
Wow.
as a child, you don't know the conversations adults are having,
True.
right? But I finally just gave up on it and said, well, after I had moved to Dallas, my mom, they sold our house. My dad had passed on like the year before I left, and my mom was in a big house by herself. So my siblings, they sold the house. And so then my mom did what? She lost the phone number. So I figured, well, she's not going to know the number now, so she'll never find me. But wouldn't you know it, just a few weeks later, on my son's 16th birthday, my birth family actually found me.
Okay.
And so, in them finding me, still, everybody is healthy but me. I have some other siblings, and I know my maternal side of the family. And no, to answer your question, everybody's healthy but me.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you
That
this.
was a long answer, right?
Oh, that was good. That's the answer that we needed to clarify and let everyone understand. Yeah, I like that question. I like that
But
answer.
here's another thing that to go with that answer. Remember I said I was diagnosed when I was about 25. Moved to Dallas when I was 30. But I needed some medicine when I was 25 for my MS, and they wouldn't give it to me because I didn't have family history. And
Yeah, I didn't think about that part. Yeah,
it
you're right.
actually caused some tension in my family
I'm sure.
because when I asked my mom, hey, I need to know something about my birth family because I need this medicine. And so she sent my sister over with my adoption papers. But my adoption papers were all redacted. So I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I was like, okay. So I told the doctors, yeah, I'm adopted, and no, there's no hope in me knowing anything. But wouldn't you know it, when I was, this is more than your readers, your audience really wants to know, but when they found me when I was in Dallas, I called my mom and asked her, I said, what's my birth mother's name? And she told me. And I was like, where were you when I needed some medicine 5 years ago? You
Wow.
could have just told me her name.
Yeah, just flat out, just came out and told you.
Yes, you could have flat
Wow.
out just told me the name. In the same way in which my family found me, I would have been able to find them because
Yeah.
they found me because I had MS and because I was on Social Security.
Right.
And they went to
Wow.
Social Security to find me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So yeah,
Wow.
long way of saying yeah.
That is it. I like that story. I like that story. I like hearing that story. I mean, I like hearing the insider, because I mean,
So having MS actually brought my birth family to me. And
yeah.
here's the other thing is that Social Security, when they went there, the lady had compassion. My sisters, Two of my birth sisters, their birthdays are just a few days before my birthday and a few days after my birthday. And they say my birth mother had a hard time whenever our birthdays came up because she just missed me so much. So in Social Security, if you are looking for somebody, you could give them a letter. And if they feel compassion for your story, they won't tell you where the person is, but they will send the letter. Right? But what she did was she got up. She says, well, I can't tell you where she is, but I'm going to go to the bathroom. And when she got up, she left the screen open that had my information on it. And so my
Wow.
sister copied it down quickly. But
Wow.
she also sent the letter. So like a week after they found me, I got the letter in the mail that had all of their contact information. So if it wasn't for MS, they might not have found me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
See how things happen?
yeah, so I'm
Wow.
thankful and grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Okay. When is your birthday?
July 23rd.
July
23rd.
3rd. Okay. July 23rd. Okay. What is the most common MS symptoms that you have right now?
Well, for me it's been 28 years and I have ran the gamut of everything you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
And some things get better and go away and some things are yours to keep. So
Yep.
I would
I
say
know all
the
about it.
hardest problem that I have is it affects my ability to walk. Right?
Yeah.
I can walk.
Yeah.
I can't walk long distances, but just for a little razzle dazzle, I also have a lung disease, which is new, right? It's about I think it's 5, 6, maybe 6, 7 years that I've had this lung disease. So it's a compounded issue between the lung disease, the MS, and I have severe arthritis in my hip. So it's like the trifecta of things, but MS definitely leads the pack because of the numbness and tingling in my legs. And the longer I've had MS, the worse it gets. So I spent my first couple of years with MS in a wheelchair, right? Not being able to walk, using a walker and a wheelchair almost full time. And then one day I just got better, right? I
Good.
just started could do more and more stuff.
Good.
And now it's almost kind of back to the beginning where to do long distances, I definitely need some type of assistance. I walk with a cane primarily to make sure I don't fall over, right? Like I can't deal with, my feet can't deal with differences in elevation quickly. Or if I'm walking down the sidewalk, let's say there was a divot or something,
Mm-hmm.
I would fall.
Yeah.
So I use my cane for stability in that aspect. But walking a long distance, I really need a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I have problems walking on uneven pavement also.
Hmm.
I
One of the
definitely.
reasons why I left the north is because of ice, right? So if there's ice and snow, a person with good balance and coordination, you could catch yourself, right? If you slipped on a little bit of ice, I would just fall.
Yeah.
So it's dangerous. But people thought the heat would be bad for me when I moved to Texas, but the ice is more dangerous than the heat because I ain't got to go outside, right? I could just
Yeah.
stay inside in the air conditioning.
I was about to move to Texas, but I did hear that the common temperatures in the hottest part of the summer is probably about 115.
Yeah, it can be, but what I'm going outside for? If it's hot, I don't work, so if it's hot, I don't
Stay
have to
inside.
go outside, right?
Yeah.
And if it was hot, I could still go from the house door to the car door to the AC. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
different than in the wintertime.
Yeah.
To get from the car to the door, you still gonna touch some ground, and there still might be ice, and it still would be more dangerous for me.
What type of MS have you been diagnosed with?
Relapse remitting, and it's always
Relapse.
been relapse remitting. It hasn't changed in all these years.
Okay. Because mine is progressive MS. What medications are you currently taking for
I'm
MS?
currently taking Vumerity, but I've been on almost everything. I've been on all the shots, therapies, to Sabri, so that was the lung
Ocrevus?
infusion. I haven't been on Ocrevus because I spent a number of years on nothing. And when I decided to go, when I was taking MS drugs, Ocrevus wasn't even out yet. It came out during the time where I was taking nothing for my multiple sclerosis. And when I decided to go back on medication, I decided I didn't. because of my lifestyle, I don't live in the US most of the time. I'm not here. Pills is a better way to go for me because I take 3 months of the pills with me. So I have anywhere from 3 to 6 months of a pill format with me at any time. It would be harder for me to take
Yeah,
shots with
I
the way
understand.
that I live out of the country most
I
of the time.
understand.
Same
I
thing for an
understand.
infusion.
Yeah, I understand that. It's time for my infusion next week. That's funny. How does multiple sclerosis affect your work life?
I don't work anymore. Previously, so to give you a little background, when I was diagnosed with MS, I had just decided I had been an optician and I had been a bartender, believe it or not, and I used to drive a truck. I used to drive a delivery truck. Now, that was what, 28 years ago, right? Well, at the time when I was an optician, of course, I couldn't do that anymore because my hands used to shake violently. Right, so I couldn't be an optician because I couldn't put anybody's contacts in their eyes. I couldn't put those little screws in somebody's eyes. I also, at the time, dealt with severe fatigue. Right, so I'm not standing behind anybody's bar to be a bartender because I can't stand up.
Yeah, yeah, yep. I got it.
But eventually I got better, right? And eventually I moved to Texas and I went back to work. And I worked in a facilities maintenance company where we fixed major things wrong with big companies like big shoe brands, I would say big household goods stores,
Yeah.
sporting goods stores, things like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And then after I worked there for a few years, it became evident that I would never retire from this company because of having MS. I needed somebody with a little bit more flexibility, and I started my own construction company, in fact, where I did facilities maintenance for the government on military bases, and then I also fixed things and did renovations for major logistical companies.
Wow, that sounds huge.
Yeah, and then I decided to stop doing facilities work because it's a 24/7 lifestyle. Especially for the major logistics company I worked with, they don't stop, they don't close. And then I did work for them all over the US. So even though I'm in Dallas, if there's a hurricane in Florida, they had locations in Florida. So then I'm sending somebody down there to fix them.
Hmm.
And so after Katrina, I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to work that kind of way anymore. And then I did more renovations and constructions of things locally here in Dallas. So I built some daycare centers on some military bases. I built some things in some universities. I did some highway construction here in Texas. And then I also worked on some projects in some airports. And then I retired, right? I retired. It became because of the lung condition. Two things happened. One, it became harder for me to breathe in fumes on construction like adhesive glue. Dust became a major factor for me, and then fatigue. So all of those things were working against
Everything
me.
in the factory.
But the major catalyst for me stopping my business was because somebody cheated me on a contract, a $300,000 contract. And I became so angry about it that within a couple of hours, my vision was going and I lost my ability to walk. And I ended up back in the hospital for 30 days. And then I ended up in full-time rehab for 6 months. I'm talking about where they come and pick you up at the house and take you there every day like it's a job.
Is that because of stress? You think that
It
was
was,
because?
oh, definitely. It's definitely stress. Stress and anger exacerbate my MS. So I could have an argument with somebody and within an hour or two I can't walk. Or my vision will just go really blurry, right? All of it is stress related, right? And so I knew right then when I got better, I could not have the type of retirement I thought I was going to have with my own business, that I needed to ramp this business down, close it out, because owning a business is stressful, right? When you're a contractor, when you're a general contractor, everybody's problem is your problem. And if I'm small, I'm dealing with small subcontractors. So if the plumber, if his employee, he got two employees. One of them car breakdown, he can't come to work. They baby sick, they can't come to work.
Right.
I need them on the job site, but his crew can't come to work. Now you affecting what the plumber needs to do and what the carpenter needs to do, and you put me behind schedule, and I'm gonna get charged $25,000 a day in liquidated damages for every day I don't deliver the project on time.
Wow, that
So
sounds stressful alone.
it is very stressful. So you cannot read. You can make a mistake and not look at where a comma was placed on a contract, and it's your problem, not theirs. And that difference where that comma's placed could cost you $100,000. So it just became too stressful for me,
Hmm.
right at that time, and I knew that I needed to ramp down and change my life in terms of construction, and I did. I ended up ramping my business down, doing more project management where it's me and not me and a crew to do
Right.
something. And so now I pick and choose when I want to do a small bit of work for somebody on a project, and
So you
mainly
do it now
sometimes.
sometimes.
But it would be the work I do now is very specific, and mainly it's more paper intensive. I'm
Okay.
going to review some documents for you. I'll recommend a contractor for you. I'll write some closeout documents for you. Things like that. That is in and out, right? And I never go to a job site, right? And I could do it from anywhere in the world. And if I don't want to do nothing for a month or two or three or four, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Is there any environmental factors that might affect your MS as far as like rain or the
But heat, definitely, I try to stay away
heat?
from it. Heat and not even sunshine. People think it's sunshine, but I could be on a cloudy day and UV rays can hit me, make me dizzy, right? It's just different types. And sometimes it could be humidity. High humidity can make me fall out.
What do you do about that? What do you do?
I try not to be in those situations. Like one day when it got me, I was in New Orleans and I was just walking down the boardwalk, kind of speak. And next thing you know, I'm about to fall out. One time I was at Disney World, not Disney World, we were at Epcot Center, and I almost had heat stroke, and it was a cloudy day. Almost took my ability to walk away. So I just try to not be in those situations.
Yeah. Yeah. Just try to avoid them. Yeah. I hear you. I definitely hear you. Because the heat is a factor to me too, also.
Hmm.
I don't like extreme heat. That's why I said I didn't move to Texas because I was almost about to move to Texas until my cousin said that the heat can get to like 115 in the summer.
Yeah, but I mean, it's rare. It happens, but then you just control how you go outside,
How you
right?
go outside,
And I don't work outside,
right?
right? So mainly I'm getting in the car to go somewhere. And then where am I going? I want going to the park on that day. Or you just control what you're going to do, but the environment definitely doesn't affect me as much as the cold did up in Chicago.
Okay. Do you still drive? You just said something about driving.
Okay. I'm gonna quit telling you these stories. So I broke my foot a few years ago. This is when I still was working. I walked out of um, there's a major league baseball park here, and I was at a diversity meeting at that park, right? And I walked out of the stadium, was crossing the street. My husband was waiting for me in the car, and I just fell out. We don't even know how it happened. The ground was even. I just fell and broke my foot. So, because of that, right, I couldn't drive for a while. And even when it got better, I sort of still didn't really drive. Right? Now, and to this day, I moved out the country, so out of the country, I don't have to drive at all. But even when I come back, I can drive. I just don't have a reason to drive most of the time. My husband will take me wherever I need to
Yep.
go. And when
Gotcha.
I do drive, boy, I drive like somebody's grandma now. It is pathetic.
You drive that slow and
It
cautious?
doesn't even feel like I'm going that slow until I see people passing me. I'm like, damn, what happened? And I used to be a very aggressive driver. But now, yeah, I'm like somebody's grandma driving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. I mean, because I guess when you say grandma, I guess to me that means like you're very cautious, right?
I'm very cautious,
That's good.
very slow, not distracted. I'm
Yeah.
never in a hurry to get somewhere. But at the end of the day, I generally don't drive. If I am driving, it's because I'm specifically going to brunch with my
Yeah.
girlfriends And
Yeah.
I done told my husband I don't he need him to drive me.
I got
And
you.
sometimes he will just take me anyway and drop me off, go find something to do, and come back and get me. But I also don't live here in the States anymore, so I don't really need to drive. I can drive. I don't drive, but it's because I don't really want to
Want to
drive.
drive.
And going back to your original question, when I said, remember I said I was in rehab for 6 months? And they come and get you every day and take you? Well, one day I drove to rehab. And when I got there, they were like, how did you get here? And I was like, oh, I just drove. And they're like, we didn't release you to drive. I was like, what do you mean? I had a meeting, so I drove. And they're like, no. One of the things that they were doing with me in rehab was reflexes. They were testing you to see how quick your reflexes were. And when they showed me my results, my reflexes were really not what it should be for
Mm-hmm.
somebody who needed to drive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, well, I had a meeting. So, but what they could have done, they could have reported me to the DMV and snatched my license. And if
Yeah.
they take your license, it's much harder to get it back.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Wow. What are, wait, do you participate in any physical therapy routines daily?
Have over the years.
Okay.
I have. I will say I finished a bout of PT, I guess it would be last year, middle
Okay.
of last year.
Physical
And that was
therapy.
probably the best PT I ever did. They did a lot of things with me to teach me skills on how not to fall. How not to fall. And so we worked on a lot of balance things, and that was probably one of the best PTs
Yeah.
that I ever did.
Yeah.
And they taught I fly a lot. So
Okay.
then they taught me a lot of exercises to do while I'm on the plane strategically that can help me making sure I don't get blood clots anywhere.
Like what? Can you tell me?
Okay, so one of them is a foot exercise, right?
On the
And
airplane.
I'm always doing this with my foot, but they said really what you do is you draw the alphabet with your foot, and it
Draw the
actually
alphabet
gives you like an A and a B and a C, but with your foot.
with your foot.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And it
Okay.
actually promotes more circulation
Mm-hmm.
than just going up and down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And you can
thanks
do
for
the
sharing
same
that.
thing. Yeah, you can do the same thing with your hands. So all of that while you're seated, it just promotes better blood flow.
Thanks for sharing that because I never heard that doing the alphabet. Because like you just said, if it was me, I probably would just go up and down, just like you said, just up and down
Uh-huh.
instead of all around. And
Yeah.
and that's the part that's probably better when you
Yeah.
go all around and now you got to do the D and now you got to do the F and now
Yes.
yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Exactly, I could use that myself. Okay, do you have any support systems that help you walk? Because I have an AFO. I have an AFO that help me help my foot to lift up. So because we have a foot drop, so it'll help me to not have foot drop. Do you have anything like that?
I have everything. So I have a cane, a walker, and a wheelchair. And I'm about to get a new scooter. Everything to help me get around. So primarily I use a cane to get around. I used to have an AFO long time ago, but again, sometimes my body just gets better.
Yeah, yeah,
For whatever reason, whatever
yeah.
the problem was, sometimes it just goes away. That don't mean it went away for good, but
Right. It's just yeah. So you're saying the only thing that you need every day is your cane.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. How does MS affect your social life and your hobbies?
Oh, my hobby is traveling, so it doesn't affect it at
So
all.
you're a traveling diva.
I travel a lot. I've been
Okay.
over 60 countries, and like I said, I don't even live here most of the time. I live abroad.
That is good. That is so good.
That's my main hobby. Because I don't currently live anywhere right now, it cuts out some of my hobbies because I live out of my suitcase, basically.
Your suitcase.
Yeah, I haven't lived in a permanent place since COVID, I would say.
COVID.
Since
Wow.
COVID, since 2020. So
Okay.
in 2019, I moved to Thailand, and I had a house there. And
In
I loved
Thailand?
it. In Thailand, yeah. I lived in Chiang Mai. And then in Chiang Mai, they burn the forest for mushrooms. And the air quality is horrible. And so I had to leave during that time. And that time was when? COVID. And I left and went to Bali, and then I got stuck there because that's when COVID happened and I couldn't go back. That was in
Look at
March of
Bali.
2020 when all the um, when all of the borders closed, and I ended up being in Bali for a year and a half.
A year and a half.
And then when I lived in a resort for a year and a half, and then when I left there, I came back to the USA. It was my mom's 90th birthday, and I came back for that. After that, my husband and I just traveled to different countries. We would spend 2 or 3 months in Egypt, spend a month in Morocco or 2 months in Morocco, then go spend 2 months in Rwanda, maybe dip back to the USA for a month, and then leave again. And go different places. And then when we came back once, my husband had to get cancer treatment, so we ended up staying for like 3 months for him to finish his treatment. Then we went to Mexico for like 3 or 4 months, came back, and then went off again. So, and then we came back one time, and my mom, as we were leaving for another trip, we needed to move my mom in to stay with my brother in Chicago, and I stayed up there to help them for 2 years.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm
Okay.
still, and my mom just passed in November.
Hey, sorry to
So
hear that.
yeah, she was 93. She lived a very full life, and in fact, right before COVID, she had come to Thailand to visit me. So
Really?
yes, yes. So she lived
Oh,
a very, very full.
yeah.
We are getting ready to travel now again, but I decided to stay in Dallas for a little bit to get a medical procedure done, and then I'll leave after that.
So where you going?
So when I leave from here, then I'll go back to Thailand.
Back to Thailand.
From Thailand, then we'll go to Japan for the World's Fair, and we'll leave there. I'll go to South Africa, leave there, and I'll go to Egypt.
Wow.
And then after I come back from there, I might actually move to Mexico full time.
Good?
Yeah, for good. I'll move there full time.
Wow.
I'm
Have you
tired of living
visited
out of a suitcase.
have you visited Mexico before?
Oh yeah, a bunch of times. I've been there over a dozen times. Yeah.
Okay, so you love it, so you might move there.
Yeah, you know what? When I mentioned to you previously that for my business, I said I need to retire
Okay.
after I had gotten sick. I always thought that I would move to Costa Rica because it's the #2 place in the world to get treatment for multiple sclerosis. But one of the things that I knew that I shouldn't move there is because I need community. And in the town I'm moving to in Mexico, I have a bunch of friends that already live there. And so because I like to be gone back and forth for, a month or so at a time, it's easier for me to have one of my friends come by and check out my home if I'm
Right.
in Mexico.
Right.
It's also easier. I've been hospitalized all over the world, right? So, funny thing, it's never anything to do with MS while I'm in the hospital. But if I needed something, it's better to have a community of people
Sure
already
is.
in Mexico than it would be if I moved to Costa Rica.
I got it. I understand. I understand totally.
I'm gonna
Okay.
stop giving you these long answers and these little stories.
No, I love it. I love it. It makes it's thorough.
I got an
It's
interest
a
in
thorough
life.
answer that give people insight. Yeah, I love it. I do. I really do. Have MS affect your vision?
You know what? The funny thing is, here's another long answer. One of my first signs, one of them was problems with my vision. And the funny thing is, I worked for an optometrist and several different optometrists over the years. And they could never, ever none of them could quite figure out what was wrong.
Right.
And in fact, one of the last places that I had worked at, I got fired. One of the only times I've ever been fired, right? And it
Why'd you
was
get fired?
because I was missing too many days of work. And they were like, I was so young. So they're like, I'm like, I was just sick all the time. I would always just kept getting pneumonia. And I've had pneumonia 27 times. And so I would just keep getting better, but I was always sick. And another time I called off and they were like, yeah, no. So, but this particular doctor, he was one of the best optometrists in all of Chicago. So after I was diagnosed, I went back to him when I had needed new glasses and I was on a walker. And they were like, you know what? I guess you really were sick all that time. I was like, yeah, I was, but you all
Yeah.
didn't. They just didn't believe me. And so I had worked at another, in fact, I had worked at another company right after them. And that company also got fired. And guess what? They had to offer me my job back. I sued them. They had to offer me my job back in writing. and they had to pay me the difference in
Okay.
what my medical bills were between if I would have had insurance and me not having insurance because I
Wow.
was
Let's see.
terminated. Yeah,
Yeah. See how things happen.
yeah.
I love it. I
But
love it.
so many people, right? MS is a disease that unless you are doing an MRI or they're looking at it a certain way, they do an MRI or they do a lumbar puncture, lots of times it mimics other things. And depending on what the symptom was that presented, also depending on your job, your age, your location, they might not tie it in that it's MS. So guess what? Remember I said I've had pneumonia 27 times. Well, because my immune system is compromised,
Hmm.
when I catch a cold or something, it will manifest into bronchitis or pneumonia, and I'll just keep getting it. I'm going to get better, but I will just keep getting it. Or there's chronic fatigue, right, in people that have MS,
Yes.
vision changes,
Yes.
right? So depending on your job, right, you're going to have all these unexplainable absences. Like, what is the problem? And so you might lose your job because they were trying to figure out what was wrong with you. And sometimes we didn't talk about brain fog and cognitive
Yes.
decline. And because of that, depending on your job, let's say your production goes down, right? And you're trying to figure it out. Like, what are you talking about? I've been creating these reports for all this time and now you can't do it. Simple tasks, or you become, we talked about driving, but driving takes a lot of mental acuity and you could be so exhausted just from the act of driving, especially
Hmm.
if you had to drive in traffic,
Hmm.
right? And so all of these things make it hard for people to go to work. Just the act of getting to work and then the cognitive abilities that you need to do your job. So it might lead to you being wrongfully terminated for something that really had to do with you having MS.
Yeah. 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 And that's your story. But they had to hire you back.
Yeah, so they had even though I could not, I was, this is right after I was diagnosed, but it took that long for them to get the court case done. Even though I couldn't come to work, they had to formally offer me my job back and they had to pay me all the difference in my fees. And that was the
Good.
last
Good.
job that I had.
That's very good. That's very good. Let me see. You know what? To be honest with you,
Did we make it through all your questions?
to be honest with you, we answered. I mean, I know it seemed like a lot of questions. It's 28, but I asked you all the questions.
So here's something that we didn't do. I didn't formally introduce myself to your listeners. What I wanted to say was that currently now, right, one, I have had MS for 28 years. We covered the fact that I have relapse remitting MS, but I also, in addition to having MS, I also have bronchiectasis and I also have a severe arthritis, and those things all kind of work in conjunction with each other to rule my life, so to speak. I don't formally work. I mentioned that I was retired, but I actually have a blog online under Disabled Diva Travels. I also run a travel company, Stokes World's Travels, with my sister-in-law.
And what's the name of it? Can you say the name?
Yeah, the name of my travel company is called Stokes World Travel.
Folks,
And
bro.
I run that with my sister-in-law where we plan trips around the world. We also plan group trips, and then we plan trips for other people. Like if you want a birthday party somewhere around the world, we'll plan it for you. If you want to go to Egypt with your wife or your spouse, we'll plan it for you and
Okay.
send you there. We do things like that. Also, I do work with the MS Society. I'm not an MS ambassador, but I do work on a committee for the MS Society that helps review grants, applications. I also work as a moderator for the Black MS Societies group on Facebook. Yeah, I do that too.
I seen that.
Yep, So there's a lot of affinity groups for people of color with multiple sclerosis. The MS Society does a lot of things with African Americans. So I do that as well. I mentioned that I previously owned a construction company here in Dallas, and I help a lot of people that have nonprofits. I either sit on their board of directors or I'm an auxiliary board member that I help them with different things.
Yeah, that's
So I
man.
stay busy. I like to say I don't have a job, but man, I stay busy all the
Yeah,
time.
that's what it sounds like you do have. It sounds like you do have a job, but you don't want to say it's a job. But it's yeah, that's so good. That is so good that you're just staying active. That you're staying active and you're not just sitting down like, oh well, I have multiple sclerosis. I'm just gonna sit down and just, just relax and that is so good that you're so
Oh,
active.
I travel the world with it, and I
That
like
is
to
so
encourage
good.
other people that no matter what your ability is or your disability, you still can travel. I say everybody except maybe somebody that's, if you can move around, then you can travel. If you want a cane, a walker, or a wheelchair, or a scooter, you could probably travel places. Now, it just causes you to take a little bit more time
One more time.
to research,
Hmm.
but you can definitely travel. Even if you're a solo traveler, you can still travel.
And I need people to hear that too, because I know people would love to hear that because they just feel stuck and they can't.
No, no, I do all kind of travel. Now I know I do a lot of international travel, but I do some domestic travel too. And there's so many things in the U.S. that you can go to, being a person that's either on a cane, a walker, a wheelchair, or a scooter. There's all kind of places that you can go to, locally or abroad.
Right, right, right. Good. That's very good. Okay, we're about wrapped up. But I want to ask you this question. I have another segment, and it's for you and your spouse. Can I bring you and your spouse on here and talk to both you guys
He's a little camera shy,
whenever
but
you're in the country?
yeah, he's a little camera shy, but I'll talk to him and see if he'll do
Okay,
it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I have, like I said, I have another segment. It's called Married to MS. So I just
You
would
know
like,
what? It is funny that you would say that because a lot of people think that, your life is over when you got diagnosed, you weren't coupled, or you didn't have a spouse. But believe it or not, I have been married 3 times and I have MS. So the first time I was young, I was 19 years old when I got married the first time.
okay.
The second time I got married was really after I first was diagnosed with MS. Right? I met that.
So you
I
got
met
married right after you got diagnosed.
Yeah, right
That was
afterwards.
good
So
the
at
second
that time,
time.
I was on a walker and in a wheelchair, and I still met somebody, and we still got married, and we stayed married
See,
for a
good.
decade, almost 10 years.
Wow. See, look
And
at
my
God.
husband,
Thank
I'm married to now. Of course, we've been married almost 15 years. Yeah, I think we've been married almost. I say
you. Okay.
think because we stopped counting. Like we made it a thing to not count how
Yeah,
many
just keep
years.
going. Just keep going.
Yeah, we don't celebrate birthdays, anniversaries. And when I say we don't celebrate, I mean that not necessarily on that day because we take trips. And we'll
Okay.
say, oh, we're going to take this trip to Puerto Rico, and that's going to be for your birthday, our
Oh,
anniversary,
I see what you're
sweetest
saying.
day, right? We'll take a trip and say we're going to celebrate it on this trip.
Yeah, I
So the
see what you're
day
saying.
of an event isn't a big deal for us because it's like it's Christmas every day. We are always celebrating each other and
Beautiful,
always doing
beautiful,
things.
beautiful.
So that way, if I forgot something because of my MS, it don't really matter because we celebrated doing big things all the time. So the
Yeah,
actual day of doesn't matter.
good, good. So it sounds like your spouse helps you.
First of all, I couldn't do what I do without him, and I will say my son too. My son is an adult; he's 37, and he plays a major part in our life, and makes it. My son makes it easy for my husband and I to travel the way that we do. Because I take a lot of medicine, right? And my son, he makes sure when my medicine gets delivered to his house, he will meet somebody at the airport to give it to him. And I have friends literally that live all over the world. And so somebody is always coming to where I'm at. It's somehow, man. Like I spent 3 months in France this summer for the Olympics. I was a volunteer for the regular Olympics and the Paralympics,
Oh,
which it was an amazing experience.
yeah. Did,
Even
did
as
you
a
take
disabled.
pictures?
Yeah, I take
Oh,
pictures. I
I would
was on
like
the
to see
field
him.
for the closing ceremonies. I was
I
on
want
the
to see
field for
him.
that. It was amazing.
Yeah, matter of fact, I,
Anyway,
I want to put those pictures right here on your podcast.
yeah, it was an amazing
Yeah, I'm
experience.
sure.
They did accommodate me in some ways for me having MS. So I was able to just work on the information booth at the stadium, at the athletic stadium. So that was a sit down job,
Yeah,
right? And it was a great experience. So
Yeah.
the Olympics are going to be in LA in 2028. Guess what? You can volunteer for that even as a handicapped individual. They got a job for you where you could sit down. And so a lot of people think, well, I don't work, so I can't do it. Yes, you can. Go volunteer at a sporting event in your city, right? Something's coming there. Go volunteer for it. And you could sit down, work registration. It just gives you a little bit of, you
Yeah.
know, interaction with other
Yep.
people.
Yep.
It's
Something to
all
do.
kind of things like that all over the world. No
Mhm.
matter where you're at, there's something to do to get out the house.
Yep. Something to do. Yep. Exactly. That's what I said. Something to do. Because some people just stuck in the house and they're afraid to go out. They just in the house, just nursing their multiple sclerosis, and they won't
If
come
you
outside.
could, some people, of course, just cannot move around, and that's understandable. But if you got any bit of mobility in you, there's all types of little things you could do
Hmm.
to just give you something to do to leave the
That's what I
house
say.
here
Yep.
and there, and that helps keep your mind
Hmm.
sharp. You know,
Yep. It's definitely good when you interact with people.
absolutely.
Definitely very good when you interact with people.
But you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yep. Yep. You're right. You're right. That's why I'm glad you said that on this podcast. So like you say, you don't know what you don't know. So people can know that, and hopefully they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, even with traveling, I know I talked a little bit about that, but some people are like, well, how am I going to get to the airport or on the plane or to the gate? You can call TSA, and TSA has all different levels of assistance. Sometimes they have programs where they can meet you at the curb when you pull up in your cab or if somebody's taking you to the airport. And if you don't need that curbside assistance, when you just get to the counter, you can ask them for wheelchair assistance, and they will get you through security to the gate. And then when you land, there'll be wheelchair assistance for you. They can help your luggage and help you get all the way to the car or the cab when you get to your destination. So there's all
No.
kind of assistance out there.
Yeah. 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 You just have to search for it. Yeah. You say TSA.
Yeah, it's called TSA Cares, and that's every airport
Yeah.
has that.
Really.
Yeah,
See?
and even if you don't call the airport, most airlines have a disability line. You can call that airline. American, Delta, Southwest, JetBlue, they all have a disability line, and you could call them.
Wow. See? Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Well, thank you, Eve Clark, for sharing this information. I really appreciate your time because I know your time is valuable. Thank you very, very much. And my podcast, like I said, is going to be on Spotify, going to be on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. It's going to be everywhere. So after I edit it in the studio, you're going to see it, and it's going to be everywhere. And it's so amazing that you share this information with other MSers and give them some knowledge on that. I appreciate it. You definitely gave me some knowledge. So thank you. So thank you very much.
You're well.
Okay, thank you very much, Eve. We're done with our
Oh, we're
interview.
supposed to close strong, right? You forgot, and I forgot.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I want it.
What were we supposed to say? Oh my goodness, I
Together we are
forgot.
stronger.
Together we are stronger together. There you go. And I'm supposed to
No,
say
no, I'm
together.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'll edit it and I'll edit it. But you should say, my name is Eve Clark, and together we are stronger.
Okay. My name is Eve Clark, and together we are stronger.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you for your time, Eve Clark.
Thank you for having me. It was definitely my pleasure.
And we're going to link again. We're going to link again. And you know, as you just said it, I would like to put all three of you guys on my podcast now. You, your husband, and you said your son.
Now, my son, you definitely can get him. He would definitely come. My husband, my son, yeah, he's an adult. He would
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, if your husband is acting like he don't want to be in front of the camera, okay, I'll just do you and your son then.
Yeah, my
And
son would definitely.
yeah, yeah, I want that. I want to do that. I want to do that. Okay, it's a wrap. But
All
thank
right,
thank
it's
you,
a
Eve
wrap.
Clark.
All
You,
right,
you you
take
have
it
a good
easy.
day.
You
So,
too.
are you traveling outside the country today?
Not today. I'm helping a friend who just had knee surgery, and it's my turn to. She had knee surgery in December, and every week one of our friends has gone to stay with her to take her to physical therapy and care for her. And guess what? It's my week starting tomorrow. My husband and I will go to help her get to the doctor
That is
for
nice.
physical
That is
therapy.
nice.
Yeah,
That is
giving
so
back. But
nice.
she's the same person who, when my husband needed cancer treatment, he needed 40 treatments and he had to go every day. And my friends all band together and everybody picked a day and took us.
See?
So one of my girlfriends, she had one of her staff members. Just every Wednesday was his day. It was his turn to just take my husband to cancer treatment. My other girlfriend, she told her company that she works for a major financial institute, and she just told them, yeah, my girlfriend's husband got cancer, and I need to take him to treatment. And they allowed her to miss work and not use her PTO to come across town and take him to treatment and to bring us back.
Wow, that is so beautiful.
So now she needs help. It's my turn.
That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. To have friends around that can and will help you in times like
Absolutely.
that. That's very
Absolutely.
good. That's very strong. That's very good. Okay, Miss Eve Clark, we'll talk to you later when your son's around. We're going to get him on our podcast and
All right,
ask
shoot
him
me a
questions.
message and let me know some times and I'll find out. I do plan on being in the States for at least another 4 weeks, so shoot me some times and I'll see when my son's available.
Okay.
All
Okay. I
right.
sure will.
All
I
right,
sure
take it
will.
easy, William.
Okay. See you later, Eve.
All right,
Nice to
bye
meet
bye.
you.
You too.
Bye.